Welcome to the Gastro Girl podcast. We bring together patients, experts, and health advocates who are all here to help you optimize your health. Here's your host, Jacqueline Gaulin.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on this episode of the Gastro Girl podcast. We got a real special guest today, Mary Jo Strobel, who's Executive Director of Apfed, the American Partnership for Eosinophilic Disorders. Now, I'm really excited to bring Mary Jo on today because we've been getting a lot of questions, a lot of insight from patient experiences with EOE, and most importantly, we've been getting a lot of questions about where to find resources related to eosinophilic esophagitis and related disorders. So I just wanted you to hear it from Mary Jo directly, all about AtBed and what her organization has to offer patients and their caregivers. Welcome, Mary Jo Strobel. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I am a Gastro Girl fan. So this is it's great to be able to be here today and to talk with you. So thank you so much for the invite.
Well, likewise, Mary Jo. And like I said, you're the go-to resource when people ask where can they find more information. I'm always putting your link to the AtBed site, but I wanted to really drill down and really understand there's so much that you have to offer. So let's just start with the basics. Like, what is AtBed and what is your mission?
Sure. So we were founded in 2001 by a group of parents who had young children that were living with these conditions. And at the time that they had formed, there wasn't much information out there. There was nowhere that they could turn for credible information and support. So they decided to build that community. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to passionately embrace, support, and improve the lives of patients and their families affected by eosinophil-associated disease through education and awareness, research, support, and advocacy. And I like to call those the pillars of our mission. With education and awareness, accuracy of diagnosis improves, the suffering decreases, a supportive community develops, and then research funding grows. And that's really what's going to get us the answers we need is through research.
Now, you said something really profound. You talked about eosinophilic disorders and related disorders. So what we're familiar with mostly in the GI community is eosinophilic esophagitis, which is involving the esophagus and an allergic reaction or immune system response to certain foods or triggers. What other disorders are related that you can, let our listeners know about that they may be interested in?
So the diagnosis really depends on where the eosinophils are found. So in the case of eosinophilic esophagitis, you would have too many of these eosinophils in the esophagus, but they can affect other areas of the body as well outside of the GI tract. For example, eosinophilic fasciitis would affect the connective tissue. Eosinophilic pneumonia would be the lungs. Hypereosinophilic syndrome would be another example of a subset of this condition. And that's it. Blood in any organ can be affected by that. So it really depends on where the eosinophils are found, and they're further characterized into subsets like that.
No. So for those who may not know, just real simple, what is an eosinophil?
Eosinophil, it's a type of white blood cell. We all have them. They help fight off certain types of infections and parasites. Several problems can cause high numbers of eosinophils in the blood. That would be allergies, including food and environmental. Certain infections, as I mentioned, parasitic infections can cause too many eosinophils. Leukemia, certain cancers. So there are many conditions that can cause too many eosinophils. When all of those have been ruled out and there's no other answer, it may be an eosinophil-associated disease.
Now, I'm so impressed with all of the wonderful resources. You have education resources. You do a lot in the research arena, advocacy for patients, and also support. I want to focus today on education because that seems to be a huge area where there's a need for patients that don't really know where to go. I hear it all the time. We get emails, they reach out, and I love to point them to your organization because you do a fantastic job of bringing really important resources and support tools for patients and their families as well as providers who need more information to share with their patients. What are some of the highlights that you have on your website, as well as events and different things that you do for patients?
So it's really a vast website with a lot of information on it. And it really depends on where in the stage of your journey that you might find need for certain resources. So we do have information on our site that would help those who are brand new to a diagnosis. What is this condition? How do you diagnose it? How do you treat it? What are treatment options? All the way through management. In the case of a GI subset that might affect your diet or eating, how do you cook with ingredient substitutions? How do you manage dining out or traveling? If your diet is extremely limited, or if a need for a feeding tube is present, then how do you manage life with a feeding tube? We have information and resources to point people in the right direction. We also have resources for the milestones in life, sending your child to school, for example, and how do you put those plans in place and work with the school, and what laws might be available to help you. And the same with college, going off to college and managing these conditions away from home. Those are two examples of milestones that it's pretty hard to let go and send your child off to school, particularly if they have a restricted diet and you're relying on somebody else to provide that nutrition. So how do you make those plans and put them into place? And what have others done? What are sample plans? Those are the types of things that you could find on our website.
Well, it really sounds like you really help parents too, and really help them know that they're not alone, that they're not just, their child has this diagnosis and it's the end of the world. There are a lot of children who succeed. We did a podcast last year with one of your champions and her son from infancy when he was diagnosed, and it's an amazing story. It's a powerful story, and she really focused on the resources that AtBed offers for patients, for families, that they're not alone. And I just want to call that out, because sometimes when we get a diagnosis as a parent, we're, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to manage this? And you really make it easier for parents and caregivers to kind of have almost like someone hold their hand through the journey and all the milestones.
A sense of community is really very important. So you don't feel isolated, and your children don't feel isolated. One of the highlights of my year is Apfed's annual patient education conference. We host it in the summer to help kids and those working with the school systems that may not be able to travel other times of year. We host it with that under consideration, but it's really a great time to not only come together to learn from experts in these conditions about advances in the field, but really to meet other people and build that support network. So it's really fun to see lifelong friendships develop at this event and then continue. And it's really something to watch kids grow up. Some of these, I have met when they were in diapers, and now they're, little people. They're like
going to college and doing.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, what a difference a year can make. But it's really an exciting time that the community can get together and network like that and offer and give support.
Now, folks can get a flavor of the conference. I noticed that you have on-demand access to some of the patient conference recordings. And can you tell us a little bit about what they can expect to find there?
Yes, we thank you. We've been virtual long before virtual was the in thing, thanks to COVID. But we always offered a hybrid event. Well, not always, but for the past several years had offered a hybrid event. And it's a great opportunity for those that can't travel for whatever reason. It gives them access to be part of the sessions and to do Q&A and have their questions answered. So we do offer that. The live event, as I mentioned, is in the summer, typically in July, but we keep on-demand access open for the remainder of the year. And that's really helpful if you missed a session or wanted to go back and listen to what that doctor said about XYZ, you're able to log in and still access that content.
That's so cool. And the other thing that struck me was you have a really strong community. And do you have an active like community where people can go in and ask questions as well? That seems to be a huge help, and it's such a needed resource. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we have an online community through the Inspire network, and there are more than 17,000 global users with eosinophil disease on those boards. And it's such a great place to ask questions of other families or other people living with this condition, or give that support. So it's really a little something for everyone. I love it because you can keyword search. If I want to look up vomiting, I could key that in and it will tell me all the posts that are related, and I can go and engage with those posts. So it's a special, unique community that we're excited to offer. If you go to our website, there's a tab at the top that says Find Support and Treatment. You can access the online community through there.
And you have support groups as well. So is that for parents of children? Is it broken down into different types of patients or providers, or how does that work? The support
groups? We don't have, Apfed does not have affiliated support groups, but when we know of support groups that are formed and hosting meetings, we do post those to the website. But we understand, time has changed in the 20-something years that we have been operating. And with social media, we see more and more of these support groups really online focused. And that can easily be found. You can find those through keyword searching on certain social media platforms. Sometimes you can find a community-based support group.
Yeah, this is great. I'm like looking again at the website. It's like fantastic. And we'll have some screenshots for those of you who are watching this on the YouTube channel. And for those of you who are listening on our many audio platforms, if you go to apfed.org, you'll be able to access all of this great content and resources. The other thing I want to point out is your work with the patient registry. Now, it's really important, as we all know, of clinical research and trials. There's not a lot of treatment options for patients with EOE in particular. I don't know about the other areas and other disease states, but tell us about the importance of the patient registry and how patients can get involved.
The patient registries and databases, they collect that uniform data that helps the researchers evaluate the disease population. They can be used for lots of different reasons, whether it's developing a research hypothesis or tracking clinical care and outcomes, or even to share information with patients about research opportunities. We do have two registries that we are involved in. One is the Eosinophil.Connect Patient Insights Network. That's for all subsets of eosinophil disease, whether it's hypereosinophilic syndromes or eosinophilic asthma or EOE. It is a comprehensive database that anybody with these conditions can join. And the other registry is EGID Partners, which is an online cohort of patients that have eosinophilic gastrointestinal diseases. And that is a collaboration between researchers and patient advocacy groups. And it engages patients to help guide the research. But people without EGIDs are also encouraged to join so that data can be compared. So again, if you visit apfed.org under our research tab, you can find the link to access either of those registries.
This is great, Mary Jo. Now, before we let you go, if you're going to speak to a parent their child was just diagnosed and they're overwhelmed, what would you say to the parent or caregiver?
Take it day by day. A new diagnosis can certainly be overwhelming, but it's something you can get through and learn to live with. There is an entire community that's ready to offer you support. Plug into that community. And really, it's take advantage of all of the free resources available to you. Ask questions. If you need additional support and help, we're always there to offer that.
Oh, one more thing I want to talk about. You do webinars all the time. Talk about some of your upcoming webinars, and are there other ones that we can access on demand?
Yeah, so we do offer a EO support webinar series that runs year round. So it gives us an opportunity to either highlight new research or practical strategies. So we do have an upcoming webinar, October 19th, on EOE treatment adherence, which features Dr. Mark Holbreich, who's going to talk about EOE and treatment adherence. They run typically an hour long. There's plenty of time for Q&A. And then there's an opportunity on our website to access past webinars that you may have missed. So recent ones have included less invasive diagnostic tools for EOE, eosinophilic asthma, and how to differentiate. Is it when is it more than just regular asthma? When could it be something a little more? And then one that we just ran this past summer was accommodations in school, where that we presented information about school and eosinophilic disorders, 504 plans and practical tips to help plan for a student that might need those educational accommodations.
That's great stuff. Really, Mary Jo. I'm so glad we talked today, because I knew you had a lot, and I've gone through your website, but it's just amazing, all the opportunities and channels for support that you have for patients. I want to tell all the patients, check this out. Now I'm going to make you do some shameless self-promotion. We'll show this up on the screen. How can folks find you online, on the website, as well as the various social media channels, how they can sign up for your wonderful e-newsletters? I get them all the time. So you're up.
Thank you. Apfed.org, apfed.org. You can access everything through there, all of our social channels. We are on Facebook. We're on, I guess we call it X now.
X, formerly known as Twitter.
X, formerly known as Twitter. And YouTube, our Instagram. Those are some of the social media channels that we're on. You can engage with us there. We love to hear feedback from patients. If there's upcoming topics of interest for a webinar, or we do a podcast, Real Talk Eosinophilic Diseases.
That's right.
We have guests on all the time, which we can't wait to have Gastro Girl come on too. But yes, we would, I would say Apfed.org would be your first stop. You can access everything that we've talked about today through that website.
Oh, Mary Jo, I'm so happy we finally got to do this. It was a long time coming. Folks, please check out Apfed if you're curious about what EOE is. Maybe you just got a diagnosis, or someone you know. Maybe you're a teacher and you're trying to understand some of what your students are going through. Great resources, great advice, and great support. Mary Jo, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast, available on all the other podcasting platforms. Thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
And thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do to educate and raise awareness about eosinophilic diseases too. So the work that you do in the area is incredible. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you as well.
Thank you for listening to the Gastro Girl podcast. For more information and resources, please visit gastrogirl.com. Do you have a question for Gastro Girl? Please email podcast@gastrogirl.com. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in the Gastro Girl podcast are not a substitute for medical advice from your healthcare professional. Please consult a licensed clinician in your state regarding all matters related to your health.